It's time for our supporters. I think it's time to show.
This is Solent Sports News at 1 o'clock. My name is George Forty, and here are your sports headlines. St Mary's Stadium will certainly be rocking tonight. Southampton face up against high-flying Leicester City under the Friday night lights. Manager Ralph Hasenhüttl has issued a war cry to his team as the Saints look to win their first home Premier League game of the season.
It's time for our supporters. I think it's time to show up as a whole club, that we are committed, that we are putting the best atmosphere we have on the pitch and also on the stands. And if we are working together, then it must be difficult for the opponent to get something in our stadium.
And to help us preview tonight's game, I'm joined in the studio by Southampton Football Club presenter Michael Curran. Thanks very much for being with us today, Michael.
No worries.
How are you feeling ahead of tonight's match?
Yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good game, as you kind of mentioned, under the lights tonight. I think the weather's not going to be terribly kind to the spectators and obviously for the players tonight. But no, I think it's going to be a good atmosphere in there. And, like we suggested, a win is kind of getting to the kind of vital at home now. You need that kind of home advantage and to get those points. But yeah, we'll see how it plans out. Leicester's a difficult game. The opening games at St Mary's this season have 3 of those 4 home games so far against teams that arguably will finish top 6. So it's not been an easy start at home. And Leicester, of course, tonight as well, a team that you think could potentially break that top 6. So it'll be a difficult game, but hopefully the atmosphere will be rocking like Ralph's asked for, and the fans will be right behind the side.
And like you say, Southampton found it difficult at home this season. They haven't won at home since April. Do you think tonight will be the time where they can put that right? Yeah,
why not? It's 90 minutes of football. It's against the Leicester side that are doing very well, but it's a Leicester side that can be beaten. I think the form at home, it's not been too bad. The Chelsea game was obviously disappointing, but when you look at the Liverpool game, there were chances. The Manchester United game, there were chances, and Bournemouth was a bit of a disappointment as well. But we've had a great run on the road, so fingers crossed we can take that form. Picking up a point last week was impressive, and obviously Tottenham again was a little bit disappointing, especially after going a goal up. But these things happen in football, and it all come together. It reminds me a little bit of the start of the season that Bournemouth had a few seasons ago. They kind of had a game that was winnable, and then 2 games against sides in the top 6, and then another winnable one. So fingers crossed we'll find some rhythm soon.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Michael, and we all look forward to tonight's game. And switching on to rugby now, and England are 80 minutes away from a World Cup final. They face up against New Zealand at 9 o'clock in Yokohama tomorrow morning, with coach Eddie Jones recalling George Ford at fly half, with captain Owen Farrell shifting to inside centre. Jones believes his squad have done all they can to prepare for victory.
Your job as a coach is to minimise the stress for your players and allow them to be free, allow them to have a clear head, allow them to play with energy and use their natural ability during the game.
To Formula 1, and the Grand Prix is in Mexico this weekend, where Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton can seal his 6th World Championship. The British driver is within touching distance to becoming the 2nd most decorated driver in Formula 1 history, only behind Michael Schumacher. And we're lucky enough to be joined in the studio by Formula 1 journalist Rob Lomas. So Rob, how do you rate Hamilton's chances going into the weekend?
I'd say he's got a pretty good chance in general, because the Mercedes as a package works really well all round on all different types of circuits. However, there are aspects of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez that suit the other cars better. For example, the pit straight being 1.2 kilometres long will suit the more powerful Ferrari, whereas the twisting S's in the second part of the lap and also the section in the baseball stadium will suit the Red Bull better, as the Red Bull historically has had better aerodynamic efficiency. So in that regard, it could be really quite close. I mean, Hamilton came 4th last year behind both the Red Bulls behind Verstappen and the Ferraris rather. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens.
Thank you very much for that, Rob. And now on to tennis, and Stan Wawrinka has withdrawn from his Swiss indoor quarter-final match against Roger Federer. The 34-year-old 7th seed, who lost to Andy Murray in last week's European Open final, beat Francis Tiafoe in the previous round. However, an hour after the win against the American, he announced his withdrawal from the competition. To boxing, and Derek Chisora has confirmed Steve Braunton as his new trainer ahead of this weekend's big domestic fight with David Price. The British heavyweight rivals will share the ring in the O2 Arena on Saturday night. Chisora's new trainer as it brings a wealth of great experience, having previously worked with Carl Frampton and David Hay. A UFC American Nate Diaz will not fight in the UFC 244 next weekend after claiming he failed a doping test. In a post on Twitter, he said he'd been told he had elevated drug levels, but didn't give any further details on the situation. The 34-year-old is scheduled to fight Jorge Masvidal on the 2nd of November in New York. And finally in golf, Tiger Woods has hit his lowest opening round of his career to take a share of the lead at the first PGA Tour event in Japan. He's tied with fellow American Gary Woodland on 6 under par, one shot clear of the rest of the field. Woods says things are starting to go his way after a difficult start.
I just kept on having left to right putts after left to right putt, and lo and behold, I make a bomb at 7, which was right to left, which was nice. But it was just weird. Even the one at 9 was another left to righter, so it was just one of those crazy days.
That's all from us at Solent Sports News. Be sure to tune in back in at 2 o'clock for all the latest headlines and to give you the news that matters to you.